Mr. Reichman, if you read ordinance 11G into the record, please, and I have some questions of you when we get to that point.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is the ordinance of the City of Winter Park, Florida, prohibiting the construction of a professional minor league baseball stadium in Martin Luther King Park, Jr., formerly known as Lake Island Park, a city park bounded by West Morris Boulevard, South Thane Drive, Harper Street, and West Comstock Avenue, providing legislative findings, providing for conflict, severability, and effective date for this ordinance.
So the ordinance that's in our packet now is substantially different than the ordinance that we had before, is that correct?
It contains section 3, which had been removed as by mistake with a scrivener's error. That is correct.
So who made that mistake then?
Our office did.
So last record, pardon me, in our last meeting, it didn't say that the city attorney had reviewed the ordinance. Is that accurate?
That's not accurate. What happened was that it came to our office for review. This was an ordinance that was submitted to the city under a citizens initiative. And the format that you have here today is exactly the same document that was submitted to the city through the initiative process, which is set forth in the charter. And when it came to our office, what the only change that we proposed was to put in something for providing for codification and send it back. Didn't
Yeah,
make
but there's one other sentence.
Send it back to
Section
who?
2B.
Send it back to who?
send it back to the city clerk.
Okay.
And then there was some concern about whether, there was a discussion of whether codification for this type of ordinance was necessary. And the conclusion was reached that the codification language, which we had added, was not necessary. So it was sent back to us to take that language out. Well, we did take that language out, but we also took out section 3, which takes away the whole meaning of the ordinance.
Yes,
So when
what-
it came back to the city from our office, it did not come back to section 3. That was a mistake.
So what I'm interested in our meeting packet from June 23, it says approved by city manager, didn't have the city attorney review. And we,
It was reviewed by our office.
okay, so I guess that was just silent. Because we heard a citizen say that they paid a lawyer to come to create this ordinance. I just want to know who that legal professional was.
I met with that individual, I don't remember her name, but I met with the petitioner group, and they brought to my attention that the one we put in the packet was not the one they gave us. I did the research, and that's when we discovered that this error had taken place. So they did have an attorney that met with me along with the petitioners.
Do we know how much that cost?
No, sir.
Well, there was no extra charge on our end.
No, I'm not interested.
I'd like to move it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'm going to move an amendment that says the following. If the city decides to build a professional minor league baseball stadium, that there will be no stadium built in Martin Luther King Park. Is there a second?
Seconded for discussion.
And where will that go?
And why would it go?
What does this say now?
Well, it would go because we haven't even decided we're going to do this.
Well, I know, but,
So,
okay.
I mean, it'd be like having a citizen petition that comes to us and said, you shall not build a library on Park A. We haven't even decided we're going to build a library at this point.
Right.
So why would we put an ordinance into the record on something that we haven't even decided to do yet? So if we choose to do it, we will not do it. That's what the purpose of the amendment.
Okay, so.
Which accomplishes what the
then you're-
petitioners
So
want.
then you're clarifying it, so that there's a rationale for it.
Right. But at this point, we haven't even decided we're going to do that. So, I mean, it's.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question, City Attorney?
Sure.
Mr. Richmond, are amendments to citizen-driven ordinances appropriate, allowed?
Well, it gives them the option under your charter to demand that their draft be placed on special election.
Well, I want to be clear because Mr. Brown did say that a minor amendment such as this
If it was a minor,
could be taken into the record.
Well, I would absolutely agree with that, but the only thing that I would caution this commission is that a minor may be in the eye of the beholder. I'm not arguing with Mr. Mayor. I understand.
I'm going based on the counsel that your firm has given us that said this is minor. So,
I
you can always challenge any of our actions.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I seconded your amendment, and I see the why you want to do this. I just don't think, quite frankly, if we have to put this on to a city referendum and spend the money doing that, and again, if somebody challenges, I believe it's minor,
But that would be the will of the 5 people that chose to brought it to us.
if they decide to bring it forward and have the city pay for, but the city would have to pay for the referendum.
Well,
I mean, if we choose in the next meeting or the next not meeting to not do this, and our citizens are voting for that, and I guess they would wonder why we were voting for something we're choosing not to do.
if there was a special election for this referendum, then it would be something that the city would have to be the party we'd have to pay for. Doesn't mean that there couldn't be an attempt made for declaratory judgment if we wanted to do that. Prior to the referendum, determine whether or not this was a significant change to trigger the entitlement to the referendum. I mean, that would certainly be one. I'm just going out there in the future and trying to.
I understand, I think the language should have been included originally, but if it's not, it's, to me.
Well, this, you understand, this is not our language. This is the language that we received from the citizens group.
I'm not, okay.
Great. Comments?
You know, there's another way to look at that as I was thinking about what we were just saying. Mayor, when you say, if we're going to do it, then it would be in a place that we can't do it. I think another way to look at that would be, maybe the citizens are telling us what is important to them in hopes that we would consider that when we're deciding whether we want to do it or not. So, you know, I look at it from a slightly different way. It's not, we don't really need this until we've decided to do it. I think what you're saying to us is, while you're trying to decide whether you want to do it, please consider our, you know what I'm saying? It's just a slightly different twist that says, maybe they want us to consider the fact that it doesn't make them happy. And so for me, I'm okay with it.
But I think it's pretty clear, and if had legal support that created it from, I think that their intent was pretty well known. And I think they don't want it built there, and I mean, I would support the amendment, but I think it's something that goes in advance, even before something's about to happen. I mean, I don't know what other preemptive ordinances could be created into the future that you would say ties the hands of a commission. That's why the amendment, I think, is not substantive. I think it makes abundant sense, and, you know, sure, don't think we're going to be building a stadium on certainly for not minor league baseball. I guess minor league soccer or something else would happen. Further commission discussion?
No, sir. No, sir.
Floor is open for citizen comments. Citizens wishing to speak to us or welcome.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Andrew Hand. I'm a member of the firm that drafted the ordinance.
And that firm is?
That firm is Shepherd, Smith & Cassidy in Macon, Florida. So I'm here tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. In any
What
case,
you were paid.
pardon me?
What you were paid.
I couldn't say it. I don't know.
So my question directly is if you were paid more than $500, were the state laws followed in this matter in terms of election?
I'm sorry, I don't follow. Can you repeat what you said?
I was pretty clear.
Well, I didn't hear you.
That was, were state laws followed in electioneering based on the development of this ordinance? Just a simple question. I don't know.
Yes, it was. This is a PAC that was formed and everything was reported properly.
On this matter? Was there a PAC form? On this matter? There was. Okay, I'm sorry, that wasn't in the record.
Yes, that's the case. And I can assure that it's been conveyed to me.
What was the PAC, Randy?
Protect MLK.
Great. That settles it for me, thank you. I would like to have heard that at the beginning. We didn't see that in our opening packets, but it would have been helpful.
I have been assured that from the committee that this is the version that they want to see voted on. And if it is not passed, they will pursue having it be part of referendum down the line.
Great, thank you.
My pleasure.
Could you put a request
1285 Richmond Road. Before I start my comments, I seem to recall the same amendment was attempted to be made the last time on the first reading. Do you recall making the same amendment, Mayor?
I do, but that's a
Okay.
question to me directly.
And I believe that you were told at that time that the charter requires, and it's my understanding, the charter requires that you pass the amendment that we wrote, or it goes to referendum. So if it's your choice to let it go to referendum, I'm not spending the money, that's your choice. But anyway, I want to remind you of that, my recollection of that, and if we need to discuss that any further, I'm more than happy to. But my comments that I've started to come up here to say, or wanted to come up here to say, that I want to congratulate the mayor and commission for looking at a visioning process, because I think it's very important that we move forward with that. At least two reasons for that, from my perspective. And the first one is that in collecting the signatures for this petition, to prevent the baseball stadium from being built at Martin Luther King Park, it became very obvious that were a lot of citizens not happy with some of the things that were going on in the city. And that we need this visioning process so this commission and the citizens can start getting back on the same page. And well, let me be brief. I'm seeing a lot on the time yet here, because I need to make later comments, but that's all right. So what I'm suggesting is let's pass this ordinance for no other reason than to let the 2,316 voters that signed this petition know that the commission heard their voices and are listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Julio de Arcos. I'm 200 Cortland Avenue. Actually, I think I'm so confused over this whole thing because we're sitting here arguing about something that has not been approved, which is a baseball team in Wooded Park. B, a location that was nixed. I mean, Fleets People Park. Martin Luther King Park was not considered as the place to build a stadium. So we're sitting here.
Please, audience.
Martin Luther King Park was not considered as a location. It was given to the Parks and Rec as one of the considerations, and the first one that went off the board was that one, for the same probably reasons that all you are for. But the point is, why are we sitting here putting up an ordinance for something that it's such a pie in the sky, it's ridiculous? Now, again, I think obviously there's other reasons behind this. I'm sure that the main reason, without putting words in anybody's mouth, is that they don't want a baseball stadium in Winter Park, but that's another issue altogether. Sorry.
Thank you.
Pat McDonald, 2348 Summerfield Road. I urge the commission to vote on our Citizens Initiative petition as presented without the amendment and honor the wishes of the 2,300 citizens who signed the petition. We don't want the amendment, and as our attorney told you, if you put the amendment in, then we want it on ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Other citizens?
Sally Flynn, 1400 Highland Road. I'm really confused. We did a citizens initiative, legally, packed, everything. Got all the signatures, it was approved by the city. Now I understand you can put an amendment on the citizens petition, but it will have to go to vote if you do so. Am I understanding that correctly?
It's not how I understand it, Sally.
Let me read the charter.
First of all, you don't know that the amendment's going to pass.
So then if it doesn't pass, oh, the amendment.
And if we pass the whole thing, even with the amendment,
This is in section 5.1. And this goes to the question that you had and apparently was discussed at the last meeting. So section A, section 5.08, it says, if the commission fails to adopt the proposed initiative ordinance without any change in substance within 60 days, it shall submit the proposed or referred ordinance to the vote. So again, it goes to the issue of any change in substance. And that was the question that you asked me earlier, and I tried to answer your question. So that's the language from the charter.
correct. Mr. Brown, our last meeting said that amendment was not a change in substance. Other citizen comments?
I'd like to use the rest of my 3 minutes, if I may, to rebut the idea that this is a frivolous amendment or frivolous ordinance. It wasn't at the time we formed the PAC, and I have to tell you, within a week after we announced that we had formed the PAC and we were going to go for this petition and this ordinance, that's when somehow the Martin Luther King Park was taken off the table. It was after we had begun the process. And I just don't understand why. In fact, I even got a call from Dr. Tom Winters immediately after we filed our petition for this ordinance. And
That was in June?
Pardon me?
In June?
I forget the exact dates, but just right after we filed it. It was, I think, earlier than that. But this is not a frivolous petition. It's not a frivolous ordinance. The Martin Luther King Park was under consideration. And although it may not be at the moment, the stadium hasn't been built. We want a clear message sent. We heard the clear message was being sent by the citizens that we definitely don't want a ball stadium in Martin Luther King Park. And that just, it's just clear and simple in that regard. This is not a frivolous ordinance. No way, shape, manner, or form. Thank you.
Good evening. Martha Bryant Hall, 331 West Lyman Avenue. I am one of the citizens that signed that petition because we do not wish to have a park, baseball park, at the Martin Luther King's site. And I can go back to when that park was built. I was one of the citizens with my Arcanets from Zeta Phi Beta with Rollins College, Magnet Achievers. We went over to help build that park. So just for the common decency to have something that the children can go and participate and families can go. Mayor, and we know what you had to encounter just to agree with having that name of Martin Luther King. So I hope that council will honor the citizens' petitions, and to have 2,016 petitions, 2,316 signatures, that means an awful lot that the citizens have spoken. And I hope you all do honor and listen to what the citizens are saying. I know the petition was taken around, and I do not believe someone would take a petition around if it was not planned. So thank you all very kindly, and I hope you will honor the citizens.
Thank you. Other citizens?
Repeat that.
No, I'm sorry, I'm just calling for other citizens to speak to this matter. Seeing none, I'll close the floor for public comment. I've been told people went door to door and say the name was going to be changed. If that happened, that's, to me, very problematic. But I clearly heard the citizens, and certainly will be voting accordingly. I will also later in the meeting, the PAC's not on our city website, I don't think.
The financial reports don't think the qualified papers are.
The qualifying papers are not for the PAC. We just need to make sure that,
The registry is right.
yeah. So if money's been expended, I guess it would be
Financial reports.
the financial reports on it. Be important to see that, so that other citizens know it's the money behind it. That'd be important. Okay, you already vote?
Just one thing, I
Yeah.
want to be clear, I mean, I'm going to support this, but at the initial discussion, there were five locations we discussed. This one was pretty much, just to be clear, we kind of said at the time, that this is, I can't believe that anybody's going to approve this, but we'll keep it under consideration just to see what pops up. But good city staff, you guys knocked it off in discussions fairly early on.
Well, I heard from the commission, you didn't want it there.
Yeah, so there was no.
But it was one of the sites.
It was one of the sites, absolutely. So was the tree farm, and that was one of the ones that was kind of pushed to the side pretty early too, to say, no, it did, there were five, right, Randy? Am I correct on that?
The words
The tree
exactly
farm-
were.
The tree farm was considered, and at one point, Harper Sherp Field came off, and then went back on, and went back off, so, I mean, it's been a fluid process.
reasonable concern.
It is.
No, and I think it's fine. My point is, though, there was no conspiracy, we didn't, at least not that I know of, that we heard of, when we pulled it off the consideration because we heard the petition going around. I mean, it just seemed that was not favored by the commission during our initial meeting.
Point well taken. There's an amendment on the table, clerk will read the roll on the amendment, and then we'll go forward from there. Clerk will read the roll. On the amendment.
Commissioner Leary?
No.
Commissioner Sprinkle?
No.
Commissioner Cooper?
No.
Commissioner McMacken?
No.
Mayor Bradley?
Yes, let's read the main ordinance as presented without amendment.
Commissioner Leary?
Yes.
Commissioner Sprinkle?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner McMacken?
Yes.
Mayor Bradley?
Yes.